Well, let's speak to Anneke Green, who's a columnist for the website Real Clear Politics and formerly a speechwriter for President George W. Bush. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening.
What do you make of Sean Spicer's resignation, first of all?
Well, I'm not surprised he resigned. I am surprised it took this long. Ultimately, it came down to his ability to work the way he needed to. I've heard that with Anthony Scaramucci coming on board, the plan was he would not report to Sean Spicer. He would kind of be his own shop. He would be going on TV. And so Sean would be left with the responsibilities of the communications director job, as well as the press secretary.
How do you rate the way Sean Spicer has done the job?
Well, he was very good at the RNC, and then he created a bit of puzzlement among people who knew him when his first day on the job, he came out and said, he scolded the press the day after the inauguration and said, these were the greatest size crowds, period, in person around the world, which if you were counting around the world, that is a defensible claim. But he said in person, this was the largest record-breaking inauguration crowds. And everybody who was there, which included me, we said, no, that's just not true. So I think that set him up to have already broken the credibility with the press that he came into the job with, and he really wasn't able to come back from that.
There are always, though, aren't there, going to be tensions between the White House principal press spokesperson and the media, who are often asking questions that he or she would rather not answer?
There will be that back and forth, but it doesn't have to be hostile. And it's very interesting to look at the different styles of press secretaries over the years. There was a lot of respect, even though there wasn't always the same politics with someone like Ari Fleischer, for example, who was early in the Bush administration. There wasn't as much for Scott McClellan, who came next, and then he turned out not to be great. He would then turned on President George W. Bush. But then the last press secretary he had, Tony Snow, was just a lovely man. He had that same gift that George W. Bush had of getting along with people, and even people who were absolutely opposed to his policies would very much like him in person and want to work with him.
So what does Anthony Scaramucci potentially bring to the role?
Well, he certainly brings the president's trust and the trust of Ivanka and Jared, who apparently were pushing for him and reached out to him to reassure him about getting the communications director role, despite the fact that the chief of staff, Reince Priebus, and Steve Bannon were not in favor of putting him into that role because he doesn't actually have the traditional public relations experience. And reportedly, he was supposed to have a job with the Trump administration much earlier because of his early support. He headed up part of the transition committee and helped with the inauguration festivities, but he had been blocked. And apparently, this is anonymously sourced, but I have read that Reince Priebus, the chief of staff, actually offered Scaramucci the job that he had previously blocked him from, which was the director of public liaison, to keep him from the communications director job. Was not successful, and then now Sean Spicer has resigned.
And just a word finally on this tweet from President Trump, which certainly the Washington Post has gone big on, and I know some Democrats are troubled by this idea that he has the complete power to pardon. Is too much of being made of that? What do you think?
I do think too much is being made of that. We have to remember Donald Trump is a showman. He likes to keep people on their toes. Clearly, it was leaked that he had been asking about the range of presidential powers, which isn't something that's commonly known. His aides talked to the press about that, and then he goes ahead and tweets it. So I think this is more of his personality saying, well, while everyone knows that presidents have the power to pardon, because he knows it gives the press something to talk about, which is him.
Anneke Green, thank you very much indeed for that.